All right. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Real Rookie Racing Season 8, race number 4 at Mid-Ohio. Gonna be a wild one. We had slightly less turnout in the pre-race practice than we had anticipated, so we ended up combining our grids into one, so we've got everyone on track from our rookies to our aliens. Going to be a wild race tonight, varying pace. I see some people on the track have an average pace of around 140 on their best lap. Other people have an average pace down to the 135. So the pace difference is going to come to play, but everybody should have somebody to race with. If you are interested in racing with us, participating in leagues, open events, we've got it all. Feel free to check the link down in the description for the Discord. And we are more than happy to get you guys out on track with us. So we'll let the auto cam run around for a while, see what kind of pace these people can put up throughout the practice session here, and see what we can get going. It does appear that I will be solo commentating tonight. My co-broadcasters are unavailable currently. Maybe somebody will jump in later, but I will sound like the insane man talking to myself. in a similar manner to the normal season broadcaster buggy. So we'll let these guys get around the track. We've got a couple people starting on their first flying laps here. So we will tune in with them and see what kind of pace we have. So it looks like our... Oh, come on. Let us run for a second and figure out why my drone camera decided not to work. That'll do it. Next. It was working just a little bit ago. Forward, backward, left, right. Built, built. And okay. Enough to get us on track here. We'll jump in at the front of the pack here. It looks like Seb Bellew is going to be our first driver across the line here. With a 136.9, quickly followed by Woohoo, 138. Well, these guys are just starting their laps for the night, so there should be plenty of time to go around and find the pace. They do have a full 30-minute qualifying session. We've got 26 minutes remaining, so there is a lot of time to find the pace on the track, and we will tune in with the guys as they start their flyers and see what we can find. Looks like we got some close cars here. We've got Seb Bellew closely followed by P16, who is Horatio Buttola, who is on an outlap. So we will tune in with Seb, who does not seem to be on an improvement at the moment, but there should be plenty of time left for these guys to find their pace. Jump back to Scrub 224, who is on an improvement with a purple sector 1. A bit of a moment there. We've got Mogo in the pit, so we'll jump up with Woohoo, who is just about to start a flying lap. So we'll hang in here and see what kind of lap Woohoo can put together for us. We'll see if we can get some of these guys working together here on the qualifying lap. There's plenty of room on this track for bump drafting, so long as you give the space. Some of these guys may work together to get a better qualifying lap and just take turns going for the improvement here. Jump around the grid a little bit, see if we can find anybody out on an improvement here. We've got Aaron K, who is currently up, just rounding the first big hairpin, exiting sector 1. Personal best through sector 1 and keeps it together through the corner into sector 2. There is still quite a bit of time for these guys on the track. We will finish this one out with Aaron as he's rounding the final corner here. You see the late turn in. Unfortunately, does not improve on this lap, but does have another chance here. There's plenty of time left in qualifying. We've got over 20 minutes left. We got Seb slightly up, exiting sector 1 with a personal best. Scrub is also on a slight improvement. I'm looking to see if anybody in here could be challenging those top spots here. We saw Soup dancing with his Delta here. Looks like he has a little bit of a compromised exit onto the long back straight here. We'll see if he can find some more time on the rest of the lap here. Stoop did manage to dip into the 35s earlier in the practice sessions, so we will see if he can manage to find that pace tonight. Give him a few minutes to jump around here. We do have Pogo up over 6/10 on his lap. Rounding the final corner, we've got Horatio Buthola jumping up immediately passed by Seb by 0.03 of a second. And Pogo with a purple sector 3 puts him only 0.3 behind the two front runners right now. We'll jump around. We've got Seb out on another push lap here. We got Pogo just starting another one. It looks like he had a little bit of a compromised exit. Stoops in the wall. Unfortunately, we've got Mogo on an out lap just starting his flyer. So we'll hang out here with Mogo and see if he can pull a lap together. Mid-Ohio is a common track that we race around here. So these guys are pretty familiar. At least our veterans are. A little bit of traffic getting in the way here. But we'll see if he can manage to pull a heater out on this lap. He's up half a second through the first hairpin into the back straight. Carries the speed through here. A little bit of time lost going through that second part of that corner sequence, but still up 0.2 on his time. A little bit of time lost in sector 2 there. We'll see if he can pull it together and increase his lap time through sector 3. Some of these corners here are a little off-putting just because of the angle of the road here. Unfortunately, Mogo does lose that in the final corner. Off that improvement, we'll jump back forward. Seb Bellew is on an out lap. Pogo is just starting a lap, but he is out for improvement. We'll keep an eye on that lap time and see if we can manage to improve further. We've got Soup just starting a flyer, or Scrub just starting a flyer. We will hang out with him for the start of his lap, see if he can manage to pull together a little bit of time. He's got 0.3 up going into the hairpin. He takes the speed deep, but unfortunately compromises his exit onto that long straight. It's super important to make sure that you're carrying your momentum through these corners, due to the lack of power and aero on these cars. He does manage to carry quite a bit of speed through at the end of the straight, though, and does crawl back a little bit more time. He is pushing up against Pogo's time here. Unfortunately, looks like there was a little bit of time lost there, but we have Pogo jumping to the top of the pack with a 136.5. Just edging out Seb Bellew and Horatio. scrub is still up for an improvement, but he's got a significantly larger chunk of time to find in order to get back up with those guys who are all teasing around in that 136.6. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like this is the one for him. I think something may be wrong with my lap time delta, because it says that Soup is up 11 seconds on this lap, which would put him into a incredibly unrealistic time. But we will hang out with him and see if this is just something weird or if he found something absolutely magical. I would assume that there would have to be a gnarly track cut in order to get that type of a time gain on a track like this. He is up for an improvement with a personal best in Sector 1 and just a little bit slower than normal in his Sector 2. So we'll hang out for the rest of this lap and see where he comes across the line, because I do not have a delta advantage here, but it looks like he did find a decent amount of time on this lap, and it's not all my delta being weird. He jumps up to a 36.7. We'll jump around the grid here a little bit more and see if we can find somebody else out on an improvement. We've got Pogo just starting a flyer. We will let him hang in there. And Horatio looks like he is potentially on an outlap. My delta is being very strange here. But we've got Soup up for another improvement here at the first hairpin. I'm gonna jump on and put my auto cam on here for a minute. We'll let this carry us around the grid up until the end, until we can find some of those closer fights looking for people dragging or clawing at somebody from the back here. We look at our delta times. We've got 400ths from Pogo to Seb and 700ths from Pogo to Horatio. Looks like we've got the top 7 within a second of each other right now, and I expect more people to actually end up in that time. Soup does set the fastest Sector 2. He's got about 4/10 off the fastest Sector 2 that I can see on the timing board right now. So we'll go ahead and jump up to him, as he appears to be up fairly substantially on this lap. He's got 3/10 coming through the final corner. This is going to jump him into P1 tentatively with a 136.374. We've got Sam up on another hot lap here with a significant improvement currently going through these final corners. Over a 2/10 increase. This is going to drop him into the 136s, only 6/10 behind Soup here, and jump him up into P5. We got another car, Dan Grealish, coming across the line. It looked like he was up for a little bit more of an improvement. Unfortunately, it looks like he had a compromised exit out of the line there. We've got Aaron K out into the final corner, half a second up on his lap. Currently with a good exit out of the corner, claws back 6/10, almost breaks into the 37. So we're going to see him definitely fighting his way, see if he can find a little bit more pace throughout the course of the night here. We'll jump forward a little bit more. We've got Spike here with an 8/10 improvement. Unfortunately, it looks like Soup is right on his tail at the moment. Thankfully, it looks like Soup is noticing that Spike is out on his flying lap with that improvement, so we will hang out here and see if we can watch this lap get together. Unfortunately, it looks like Spike does end up in the grass. We'll jump around a little bit more. Dan Grealish out on a fairly significant improvement, up a half a second. It looks like he is one of the back runners for now, but that does not mean that he is out by any means. There's still 13 minutes left of this qualifying session, and plenty of time to find on the track. See if any of these guys can manage to get a small setup adjustment or something put together here that brings them even further into contention. Dan is definitely finding a little bit more time. He's got a 2-second improvement. Finding the flow of the track here. It gets down to a 143, just edging out Black for those final spots on the starting grid. We've got Horatio up here on a heater, up 2/10 currently into sector 3. And we will keep an eye on him as he appears to be carrying that momentum through. It looks like he had a little bit of tire slip, a little bit of compromised line, but he is pushing through with a slight improvement still at this pace. If he doesn't run into traffic, unfortunately, Spike is right in front of him. If he can get a good exit out of this corner, he could definitely jump up to P2, potentially even further up the grid. Unfortunately, it looks like running into that traffic did knock his lap off of the pace. Soup did just cross the line with another slight improvement with a 136.186. We'll jump around the grid here a little bit more, see if we can find anyone. Looks like Bullet is up on a significant improvement. Unfortunately, there was a bit of a moment there and he lost that time that he had to gain. Looks like Mogo is up on a significant improvement here with 3/4 of a second off his lap time. This would put him in contention with Soup if he can manage to get through this lap without losing any more. I know Mogo is very familiar with this track. I have had very good fights with him on this track. He is always pushing for the win. As he rounds the final corner, it looks like his exit was a little bit slower than he'd liked. About 0.07 of a second behind Soup at the front of the grid. Currently, just under 11 minutes to go here in this qualifying session. So these guys are definitely going to be clawing at the Delta to see if they can push towards the front of the pack even further. Let the auto cam take us around here a little bit. Jump on with Spike, who is up fairly significantly. Unfortunately, goes a little wide into the last corner. Jump forward, we've got Bullet up 0.4 of a second, pushing his way down into those 39s. And bringing this lap time down. Bullet has been around for quite a while with our series now. He's very familiar. He has improved a ton since he first came. And it's exciting to still see some of these guys out on the track. We got Scrub up 0.4 of a second, almost a half a second coming into the final corner here. Let's see if he can find a little bit more time, find the grip, coming around that final corner and push himself up the starting grid a little bit more. And he is going to swap spots with Sam and jump up to P6 on that starting grid. Like the auto cam really wants to keep it on with Scrub. So we will let this run for a minute and see if it brings us to anybody else up on a decent improvement. We've got a couple of guys have broken down into those low 36s. We'll see if some of these other guys can find that time and bring the fight to the front of the pack, or even dethrone our current pole sitters. And we can see some of the different lines that these guys are taking through. A lot of these guys are taking a little bit of a wider line through T1, but if you can hit that corner just right, like some of these people at the front of the starting grid currently, you can take that almost flat. We will hang on here with Horatio to see how he's taking that. See if he takes that aggressive line up close to the curve, potentially even climbing onto the curve a little bit and carrying that speed through. We can see the slight lift, but back on throttle almost immediately and carrying just so much speed through that corner with a excellent start. But a heavy lift going through here and the car dancing around the crest in that hairpin and gets a solid exit onto the straight. We've got him up 0.3 of a second currently. This would put him up into P3, and there's potentially more time to find here. We got a personal best sector 1 of 0.3, braking hard and letting the car slide through this corner, dance over this next crest at Mid-Ohio, and carry the speed, carry the momentum through, wait for those tires to bite, and get back on the throttle. We've got Horatio pushing through the corner here, taking this car wide through over the curb and sending it through these final corners with a massive improvement. I think that may still be on. Unfortunately, lost a lot of momentum going through, going wide onto the grass there. He was up over 0.6 of a second. That would push him down into the 35s. Gets a great exit out of the corner. See if this lap counted, and he does jump up to P3, but showed in that lap that he has the potential to jump to the front of the grid entirely here. As we see him go back to the pits to reset for another push lap, we'll jump around the grid a little bit more. Look for some of these guys who are up on these improvements and see who can find the time to push Soup out of P1, push Mogo out of P2 for the start of the race. We jump up, we look at the current split behind the leader. We've still got less than a second from P1 all the way to P7. And Deadly Daniel in P8, just outside of that 1 second range. It looks like the pace drops off a little bit with Aaron K and Woohoo kind of being the only two in that 2 second gap range, and everybody else bringing it up together and bringing these lap times closer and closer as the time goes on. Got about 4.5 minutes left of our qualifying session. See if these guys can manage to find a little bit more time and break into those 35s. The second half of the qualifying session will have a slightly warmer air and track temperature, which will increase the grip level slightly on these cars as they're going around these laps here. We'll jump around and keep an eye on these guys, and we will jump around the grid, see if we can find the next guy out on a flying lap. Hitting some of the guys in the pits here. Soup manages to break into those 35s. Unfortunately, we did miss that jumping around the grid here. We've got Mogo Round in the corners, not out for an improvement currently. And Horatio, not out for an improvement currently. We got Seb Bellew just starting his flying lap, so we will hang on with him as Mogo does not appear to be out on an improvement. And Scrub is on an out lap, so we will hang out here with Seb Bellew, who is on a slight improvement through the first couple corners. And we've got a couple of these guys fighting for those starting positions at the front of the pack. Unfortunately, Seb has a bit of a moment, goes wide. So we'll jump around the grid a little bit more and see if we can find somebody out on a flyer. We got Horatio starting his flying lap here. We'll see if we can manage to not give him the commentator's curse and see if he can find the time to bring that 0.6 gap down to Soup. Now this race is a 45-minute race, but fuel rate and tire rate are both set to normal wear. This means that these guys should be able to complete this entire 45-minute race without a pit stop. And if we can stay consistent for 45 minutes, this means that these guys do not get a break. They do not get a chance to let go of their wheel and take a breath in the pits while they are topping off their fuel. Unlike normal, it is 45 minutes of hot lapping flat out, and consistency is going to be king here. Unfortunately, it looks like Horatio did catch up with the car in front of him, and it appears to have slowed him down a little bit. This is where he lost the time in the last race. That car goes off the track. He's up 0.3 through the final corners. Unfortunately, takes that a little wider than he probably intended to. He does improve, but only by 1/10 instead of the 0.4 that he was up, which would have put him past Mogo into P2 to start this race out. We've got Soup up with a slight improvement down the end of the back straight. We've got Mogo on an outlap, just about ready to start his flyer. We will keep an eye on his track position as we jump around the grid here and see if we can find somebody who is nearing the end of their lap with an improvement. Bullet is coming across the line. It looks like the next car to start a flying lap is going to be Mogo. So we'll jump around here for the cars out on track and see if anybody is out on a current improvement. Gotta lose the rear a little bit. Unfortunately, that's going to keep his lap out. We've got Potatoes for Life up 1.2 seconds, finishing his lap, jumps him into P11. We've got Bullet out on track, and Mogo has just started his flying lap. We'll keep an eye on him as he has just begun exiting T1. We'll keep an eye here as he continues to push on this lap. Now he has about 0.4 seconds to find if he wants to take that spot from Soup. Looks like Horatio has abandoned his attempts to overtake Mogo, but we should see a little bit of working together, a little bit of lap time as Mogo is up 1/10 at the end of the straight. Gets a decent exit, but loses a little bit of time entering in that crest. Looks like he lost a little bit there. We'll see if he can manage to pull it together and grab a little bit more time back. Unfortunately, goes a little wide. I believe that that lap is still good. His right tires did manage to stay on the track, but I do not believe this will be an improvement. We've got Bullet crossing the line on his final lap. We've got Soup out right behind Mogo on another flyer. Mogo is not going to improve on this lap, but he may attempt to get one more lap in before this overtime session ends. We'll jump back to Soup, who is not currently up. He's down 0.7, and Seb is also down a full second coming through. that will be the end of our qualifying session. We've got Soup in P1, Mogo P2, Horatio P3, Pogo in P4, Deb Bellew in P5, Grub224 in P6, Sam S in 7th, Deadly Daniel in 8th, Aaron K 9th, Woohoo Man in 10th, Potatoes for Life, Mega Mew, Bullet, Bike, Rick Nicholson, Dan Grealish, and Black at the back of the pack here. We see some questions popping up in the chat asking about fuel saving. It may or may not be necessary. I believe these cars should be able to go the full 45 minutes without having to worry about it too much on a track like Mid-Ohio. There is a lot of elevation changes, but there is also a lot of long straights where you can tuck into the draft and save that fuel while maintaining the pace. So looking at this, we've got a qualifying time. The only person to breach into the 35s was Soup. However, we've got Mogo all the way down to Sam in P7 in those 36s. We've got Daniel and Aaron in the 37s. Then everybody else is following up the back of the pack there. And I will send my car to the pits so I do not end up where I do not need to be. So looking at the grid here, we do have 17 cars out on track. I'm going to go back to front this time since I only have 30 seconds. We've got Black, Dan Grealish, Rick Nicholson, Spike, Bullet, Mega Mew, Potatoes for Life, Woohoo Man, Aaron K, Deadly Daniel, Sam GT3, Scrub224, Seb Bellew, Pogo XS, Horatio Butthole, Mogo, and Soup at the front of the pack here. And we will grab the camera here. Got 4 lights up. And out and away we go here. Looks like I've got a decent start, no contact immediately out of the start. Everybody appears to get rolling okay here. And into T1, we've got a move from Mogo already alongside. We've got Horatio and Mogo bumping. A little bit of contact. Robin's racing. We've got some traffic out in the back. Unfortunately, we've got Black off the track towards the back of the grid. We will jump up to Soup here at the front of the pack again. As it appears that Dan Grealish and Black had some contact into T1, and with the rub-in between Mogo and Horatio, it appears that they also appear to have lost a little bit of time here on Soup. We see Mogo going wide. We've got 2 wide behind him between Horatio and Pogo. Pogo taking it up the inside, got some contact. Horatio appears to make it through. Pogo spins a little bit sideways. We've got a little bit more of a moment here. We've got Scrub off the track, as well as a couple of other drivers making their way through. We will jump back up to these front runners who are starting to gap the rest of the field here. We'll jump back a little bit towards these guys who are a little closer together. We've got Sam just behind Seb. And all the way back, we've got less than a second from P4 all the way down to P12 with less than a second between each car. Yeah. Soup crossed in his first lap with a 42.2. Just keeping an eye out on what the lap time difference is between these front runners and these back runners and how much time was actually lost in that first lap. Looks like we got some even closer racing back here just behind Daniel with less than 1/10 of a second going into the last corner from Mega Mew right behind Daniel. With Aaron K following up right behind them. Jumping back to the timing on the first lap there, it looks like the guys at the very back ended up putting in a 2:08 on their first lap. So we see a 26-second time loss on lap 1 from contacts. Jump through the grid here a little bit. We've got Soup a second and a half ahead of Mogo. Mogo has 3 seconds on Horatio at the moment, and Horatio has 2 seconds on Seb, but we've got Sam and Pogo immediately on the heels of Seb, looking for any moment where they could stick a nose in. Now, this is a very long race with 41 and a half minutes remaining. I'm a little surprised that some of these guys aren't working together a little bit more to try and bring themselves back up to the front of the pack to the fight. We'll see if some of these guys, as they continue to group up, continue to push their way through and make the gaps towards the front a little bit shorter as time goes on. We got some very close driving here between Sam and Pogo, immediately behind Seb within less than a second. We've got some pretty close driving as well way back here for the P8 position, with 4 cars bumper to bumper through the hairpin. And it looks like just behind them there is another similarly close pack. Now we've got Rick here about a half a second up on these guys, but Aaron and Daniel are trading positions going into the corner, racing as if it is the final laps of the race and pushing super hard on each other. Sometimes it is patience that will get you through these early laps and get you the positions for your race, especially in these 45-minute sessions. It looks like Scrub had a moment back off the track a little bit. We'll jump back up and check these gaps. We've got still that second and a half from Soup to Mogo, still that 3 seconds from Mogo to Horatio. We've got Seb 3 seconds back from Horatio as well. Looks like Sam and Pogo have fallen back a little bit due to the fighting. We'll jump back up to Rick here, where we still have 5 cars fighting it out for this P8 position. We see a little bit of a moment at the back there with Mega Mew and Spike as the cars lose a little bit on that off-camber final corner. We can see the different lines, different angles coming through here as Deadly Daniel sticks his nose through and manages to get past Rick, and Aaron K follows immediately behind. We saw that Rick had to slow down because he was afraid of contact with Daniel here going through the corner. And unfortunately for Rick, fortunately for Daniel and Aaron, they were able to stick their nose through. And we'll jump back up to Sam and Pogo here, who are still racing bumper to bumper through this off-camber ridge and pushing through. We see Pogo carries a little bit more momentum, but has a little bit of a wiggle coming through the final corner, or coming through the corner there, right behind Sam, pushing through the grid here. We've got Spike immediately behind Mega Mew, looking for a potential move here, coming into the final sector, into Sector 3. And we see Soup set the fastest with 136.1, immediately followed by Mogo, who is 0.04 of a second faster. He has closed that gap down to a 1.2 second gap and pulled away from Horatio slightly more. We'll jump back up as this gap appears to have lifted a little bit, but Seb Bellew is getting closed down on by Sam and Pogo as they round into the hairpin. And there are several different lines that these cars can take through that hairpin. Some people opt for a tighter line, which allows you to carry a little bit more momentum, potentially a faster exit onto the straight. However, there is a major risk of taking the car into the dirt there. We'll jump back to Potatoes for Life, who is just getting past potentially by Scrub, but it looks like Scrub backs out of that into the first corner, a little bit worried about contact going through that. So we'll jump back up to Seb here, who is still has Sam and Pogo immediately on their tail. And Soup has managed to spread that gap to Mogo back up to that 1.6 second. Unfortunately for Mogo, looks like he may be struggling a little bit here. We can see the lap time difference. We have Mogo's slightly better over the last lap, and we will put our gap monitor there on Soup and Mogo at the bottom of the screen as we go through and pay attention to these close fights. We've got Pogo sticking his nose up the inside of Sam, but he backs out before going into the corner to allow everybody to get through cleanly. There is still 36 minutes left in this race here, with plenty of time for mistakes and plenty of time to work together and fight their way back up to the rest of the pack. We do see Pogo sticks his nose alongside of Sam going down the back straight. Looks like Sam potentially had a little bit stronger of an exit. We see Pogo juke to the inside here, going into the final corner, and he manages to squeeze by Sam. Pogo definitely had the pace during qualifying to push towards the front with these guys and manages to push past Sam, and now he gets to bring the fight to Seb and potentially work with Seb to move his way back up to Horatio at the front. We've got Mogo within a second of Soup after this most recent lap. We'll jump up and take a look at this, and we'll be back at Pogo in just a second here. He's within 2 seconds of Seb, and we see them entering the final corner, bumper to bumper. Immediately pushes his nose up alongside of Seb and pushes his way through. He's going to dip back into that draft again and keep his eyes out for that break. Take the toe as much as he can down this straight into the chicane, up into the off-camber hairpin. We see Seb get a little sideways there, unfortunately able to catch it. That could have been the end of multiple racers' hopes at this podium position. If Seb and Pogo can work together with Sam, and Woohoo has joined the battle here at the front, pushing for this P4 position and working his way up towards that P3 position, potentially down the road. We've got Pogo lunging alongside Seb through the corner. He's going to go into the off-camber crest up on the outside, which is a significant disadvantage, but fortunately it puts him on the inside of the following corner, and he manages to make that move stick coming through. This fight has slowed them down. They are 5 seconds back from Horatio at this point. If they'd been working together, they could potentially be pushing even closer to Horatio for that P3, for that final podium spot. But we will continue to watch as Pogo is now separating himself from Seb, as Seb has to go immediately on the defense against Sam and Woohoo Man, who are now directly behind him. He's been watching his mirrors this entire 15 minutes so far. He has not had a moment to breathe. We'll jump back. We see Rick Nicholson getting attacked by Scrub 2/10 through into this final section of corners, and we see Scrub does back out slightly going through that corner, and we've got Pogo separating himself now from these guys at this fight, as Seb has to go super defensive to defend his position from Sam and Woohoo through the hairpin into the long straight. Sam and Woohoo behind here now have a massive advantage from the toe. We see Seb immediately going towards the inside defensive line, trying not to give these guys the opportunity to make that move that Pogo made. and he forces them out to the outside as Sam sticks his nose through and manages to keep it clean and tight and in front of Seb through the off-camber corner, and Seb is dropping places back. He is now half a second back from Sam and immediately has to go on the defense again against Woohoo Man here. We've got Mogo within a second of Soup at the front of the pack. We've got Aaron within half a second of Spike for that P10 position. And we've got Seb slowly falling back from Sam, who is already 2 seconds back from Pogo, looking at this front. Mogo has very healthy breathing room here from Horatio with a 9-second gap, but anything could happen as he has closed down that gap to Soup to 0.6 of a second as he pushes through on this final part. It goes a little wide onto the straight. That exit is going to compromise his speed into the straight, but he's closed the gap once. I'm sure he can do it again. We will continue to watch as these guys push throughout the entire duration of this race. It is a 45-minute sprint race at this point. It is hot lap after hot lap for these guys as we see the grid start to spread out slightly as Seb is within approximately 1 second of Sam, with Woohoo Man approximately 1 second behind Seb. He does close up in that braking zone, and unfortunately we've got Dan Grealish off the track here as these guys are coming through. But fortunately, this is a rookie server focus, and we are experienced and comfortable, and these moments off track are expected to happen, especially when we have a season championship where the grids are combined between the higher tier and the mid-tier drivers. We've got Woohoo Man closing in on Seb as Soup pulls away from Mogo even further here. That gap is up to approximately 2 seconds. But Woohoo has closed that gap down to Seb to a half a second. You can just tell Seb is watching his mirrors into every corner, waiting for the moment, waiting for the dive bomb, waiting for that late break from Woohoo. And we see a little bit of the alternate line as Woohoo hugs the inside, allowing him to get onto throttle a little bit earlier on the exit. And he is just outside of the full strength of this draft. So Seb's slightly better exit is giving him a little bit of breathing room coming through these final corners. We've got that gap at the front of the grid here, still at 1.7 seconds. We'll see if Mogo can manage to close that down a little bit more as Woohoo closes in tight into the off-camber crest. And using all of the track behind Seb, we see him sliding all over the road, just trying to close up on Seb and push as hard as he can. We've got Seb falling back a second and a half. We can still see them behind Seb. And we got Pogo 4.5 seconds back from Horatio at this time. Horatio is 10 seconds back from Mogo. So it looks like that fight at the front is going to be entirely between Soup and Mogo unless they come together here. We do have a car stationary off track with Black up into the hairpin, waiting for the cars to come by. Thankfully, we've got Pogo immediately behind, rejoining, or immediately behind that rejoin, but still pushing on strong. As we jump back up to the front, we have Mogo within a second of Soup again, and Woohoo within 0.4 of a second of Seb Bellew ahead of him. We'll keep an eye on Mogo and jump back here to Woohoo sticking his nose around the outside of Seb. This is where Pogo managed to make the move stick. Can Woohoo do the same? He takes a little bit too much curb, loses a little bit of his traction and momentum through the corner. Unfortunately, this will not be the lap where he is able to make that move. We are only 1/3 of the way through this race. We still have 27 minutes left to go. There has been close racing the entire time. We've got Mogo setting the fastest lap of the session so far with a 1:35.966, which is almost a half a second faster than Soup in the previous lap. We'll jump around the grid here a little bit more. We've got Scrub coming for an overtake on Potatoes for Life into the same corner where Pogo was able to make that move stick on Seb. We'll see if Scrub can manage to pull away from Potatoes for Life. He is down from his qualifying position, unfortunately for his race. He had a couple of moments early on, and it seems to have shaken his confidence a little bit. We've got a couple of battles going on here. We've got Seb within a second of Woohoo still, or Woohoo within a second of Seb, and Mogo closing that gap down to a half a second. We'll jump back up here. Looks like Mogo had an excellent exit out of that corner. He's within 0.6 of a second of Soup. Going into the final couple of corners, which can be taken almost flat if you're brave enough. We got Mogo losing out a little bit through the corner prior to this one. There's been several moments in the history of our races at Mid-Ohio coming out of that final corner where there are some major moments that do happen. We've got Spike back here within a 1/10 of a second of Scrub ahead. A little bit of contact. Fortunately, nobody goes off, and Spike does let Scrub keep that position with that contact. We've got a car off track here with Dan Grealish just having a little bit of a rough time. Fortunately, keeping his eyes out and rejoining safely. We'll jump back up. We've got Scrub, Spike, and Potatoes for Life within a second of each other. We've got Mogo a second, less than a second behind Soup, and we've got Woohoo Man about a second behind Seb. We'll try and keep an eye on all of these. We've got Aaron K coming up on Mega Mew in P9 in that fight for P9, crossing the line. We've still got 25 minutes to go in this race, and a lot of close fights going on at the moment. It looks like Scrub down to Spike has managed to spread out a little bit, giving me a little bit of breathing room, but we've still got Aaron within a half a second of Mega Mew. We've got Woohoo within a second of Seb Bellew, and we've got Mogo within a second of the leader, and continuing to push on throughout the race. Well, look at these lap differences. Looks like Mogo may have had a little bit of a moment last lap and lost a half a second on sector 2. As we continue to watch these guys push through, we've got Woohoo back within a second of Seb Bellew, and we will jump back to this fight. It is the current closest one on the track. We got Mega Mew under attack by Aaron K in the back. We'll pull up his dash cam to see if we can see anything happening on that side as well. Into T1, we've got Woohoo. We're gonna jump back immediately as Aaron K is alongside Mega Mew coming through into this final sector. Side by side is definitely not what these guys want through this corner. We'll see if Aaron can manage to make this switchback stick through the final corner, as we see Mega Mew go a little wide, lose the rear, and Aaron manages to squeeze through with a very, very close pass on Mega Mew. Let's see if he can take that momentum and shift it forward throughout the rest of the lap and pull away and get some breathing room from this battle that he was having with Mega Mew. He was on the attack, now he's on the defense. We'll see if we can find anything that happens here. Looks like Woohoo did have a bit of a moment and fell back from Seb Bellew. We've got some decent spread up here. Megamew still on the attack of Aaron. We've got Mogo in sight of his target of Soup at the front. Horatio is slowly drifting back towards Pogo. Soup sits the fastest lap of the session with a 1:35.767, which is 0.2 of a second faster than Mogo's fastest lap of the session. We'll keep an eye on this battle as this continues to go on. See if we can force a mistake. Megamew goes a little bit too hard on the curb, manages to catch the car and pull this one through. We'll take a quick look through our gaps here, see if there's any other battles that need some close attention. It is currently just these two, and the leaders currently in a fight. We've got Mogo within a second of Soup still for the past 24 minutes of this race. We'll continue to watch that and see if he can close that gap down. Every time he gets within striking distance, it appears something happens that stops him from being able to make the move and make it stick. We've got Aaron pushing hard, just broke a little over a second away from Megamew in that P10 position. And we will continue to watch as Mogo and the leaders are coming upon lapped traffic once again. Fortunately, everybody seems to make it through cleanly here. This front battle is the closest fight on the grid right now, with about a 1 second. We see Soup get a little wild going into that corner. We'll see if Mogo can get a good exit and plan an attack down this front straight. We've got Spike out in front of Soup, and it will be in the hairpin likely where they manage to catch up with the lapped traffic. Take a pan through here at the rest of the grid. We've got Mogo within about a second, Megamew within about a second of Aaron for that P9 battle. We'll see if anything can come of that one. Soup and Mogo have not come up on the lap traffic quite yet. Unfortunately for them, as it is going to get into a more technical sector of the track with more elevation change. And definitely a moment where you do not want to be passing the slower traffic through this sector. We'll continue to push through for this series. We've got Mogo within a second of Soup. We've got Megamew falling back to about 2 seconds from Aaron, but we've got Scrub going for a move out of T1 on the inside and making his way past Megamew for that P10 position here, pushing his way through on track as Megamew falls back a little bit with the compromise line that he had to take to push his way through the race. We've still got 19 minutes left of racing here in Mid-Ohio. We've got Soup setting the pace with consistency and pushing hard throughout the race so far. He has a little bit of a moment into the final corner, or into the hairpin. If Mogo can manage to close that up even just a little bit, that will be confidence inducing. Looks like he did manage to close out about 0.2 of a second through that corner. Every corner, the consistency of these guys at the front, any little mistake is going to allow one of these guys at the front of the pack to bring that fight closer and closer together. We see Soup starting to make a few more mistakes here and there. We've got another 0.3 of a second between Mogo and Soup going into the next lap here. And we will grab, I think, this one. The last 4 lap difference, we can see Mogo was slightly slower over the past 3 laps, but prior to that, he was setting faster and faster laps and closing that gap up with Soup. I'm wondering if the fatigue is starting to get these guys a little bit of mental stress and making a few more mistakes. We've got a slight gain in that last lap from Mogo towards Soup as we skim through to see if there's any closer fights to pay attention to. I think we will let the auto cam do some of its work here. And it did some dirty, so we will immediately switch back off of that and jump around the grid a little bit more. Just watching these guys push and push and push. We've got Potatoes for Life within a half a second here of the car in front belonging to Mega Mew. We'll see if he can manage to make a clean pass attempt on these guys as Mogo and Soup continue to battle it out at the front. And we will grab my timing here one more time for these guys at the front of the pack and jump back to Potatoes for Life, looking for that move on Mega Mew into the final corner. It is a very risky spot to make a pass, but it is one of the best spots to make a pass. If you can come through without making contact through the corner, you can force a mistake from your opponent. And this allows Potatoes for Life into T1 to make another passing move. We've got Soup setting the fastest lap of the race with a purple Sector 1 and Sector 2 with no improvement in Sector 3, setting a 35.5. Immediately behind, we've got Mogo setting a 35.6, so these guys are still going blow for blow throughout the race. We got Scrub looking for a move on Aaron here within half a second, pushing his way through over the crest and looking to find a way through. Mogo has closed down to 1.2 seconds to Soup ahead in that battle for P1 as they continue to push through. We've got Scrub going a little wide through the corner. Unfortunately, that's going to make him drift back. We've got Mogo closing down within a second of the guy in front. We will jump through the grid here. Look at some of these gaps. We've got Mega Mew pushing through into the fight for P11. He has fallen back a little bit after those early race incidents that he was able to avoid. But overall, his pace has been solid for him. We see a lot of these guys are putting in 140s, 138s, and he has been consistently putting up the same lap times, lap after lap, for that 140. And unfortunately, it's just not quite enough to keep up with some of the faster class drivers up towards the front. We've got Mogo closing down even more within 0.7 of a second of Soup going through into that first turn. We'll jump back up to this front fight, and as it is the closest battle on the grid that we currently have. And he manages to close that down tight into the final corner, or into the hairpin here, going into the back straight, pushing through. And just on the edge of that draft range, he is managing to close that down slightly. If he can manage to get a little bit closer, he has 13.5 minutes to make a move here. That means that we have approximately 3, 2, 4, 8, probably about 9 laps remaining of this race. We'll see if Mogo can manage to make a move and make it stick. He has been in pursuit this entire race so far. There was a little side-by-side contact that pushed him back from Soup at the start, but he is now within 0.2 of a second going into the final couple turns of the race. This fight is still on, as we see Mogo taking a different, more aggressive line through here, allowing him to keep the back end of the car a little bit more unfortunately for him, Soup does manage to get a little bit of a better exit through the corner. And we will grab these lap time differences here from Soup in P1 to Mogo in P2. And we will continue to watch this and see what can happen. We've got more laps on attack at the back. We've got Scrub within 3/10 of Aaron going into the technical section at the back of the track here. Mogo still within striking distance, just waiting for his moment on Soup, waiting for a slight mistake or any opportunity to make that move. We've got Mega Mew within a second of Potatoes for Life, and Mogo still in that striking range. We're going to see if Scrub can manage to make a move and sticks it around the inside, looking to go around the outside to claim the inside of the final corner. Looks like he does manage to make it stick as long as he can get it slowed down enough to make it through this corner without losing the car. And he does manage to make it through and make it stick. We'll keep an eye on that gap to see if he can continue to pull away at this point. Scrub did have significant pace in qualifying and is definitely expected to finish in the top 7 based on qualifying pace alone. But unfortunately, he has a significant gap to make up here in order to get back towards his starting position. The closest gap on the track right now is Mogo looking for a move out of T1 on Soup. We see lap traffic coming into play here as the cars almost coming together through the chicane into the hairpin onto the back straight. We'll see if Mogo sticks his nose through. A little bit of side-by-side Robin's racing. Let's see if he sticks back into that draft. This is the closest they've been out of that corner. And see if he can go for the move into the corner at the end of the straight here. Looks like Soup hugs the inside line, preventing Mogo from having the ability to take that line. So we will go side by side around the outside as Soup comes in with an aggressive turn in. Barely enough room for both cars to make it through here. And he manages to hold it on the inside line there. As Mogo immediately sticks his nose back behind. Unfortunately, lap traffic getting in the way as Mogo pushes his way through. There's no way Mogo could see that car in front of him, unfortunately, to avoid that contact. As we come into the final couple of corners with 9 minutes left into the end of the race session here, we have the wider line being taken by Mogo and the tighter line being taken by Soup. Pushing through into the final corner here, we've got a little bit of drag race. Soup is going to have a compromised line through. We'll see if anybody backs out. We've got both racers leaving a little bit of space. Both racers slowing down significantly off their normal pace through that line. We've got Mogo taking the wide line through the chicane. Unfortunately, that does lead to him losing a little bit of traction, but he does manage to make it stick through that chicane currently. We've got Soup having an exceptional exit out of the corner with closing that gap back down from 2/10 to 1/10. He is already alongside, claiming that inside line from Mogo. Mogo's going to squeeze him towards the inside. And there's pushing, and they push against each other. Both racers off in the grass, allowing Horatio some time to potentially catch up here as these guys fight their way back onto track. There will definitely need to be an incident review there on that move, as Soup did not allow Mogo the space on the track that he was entitled to, as he pushed him off the track entirely. This allows Horatio to close down within 5 seconds of Mogo, as Soup is currently still on track, but it looks like he may be waiting for Mogo to catch back up here as these guys continue to fight their way through. We've got Mogo one car separating them out of the final corner. It looks like thankfully Soup did slow down enough to let Mogo catch up going into the track here. We have Pogo managed to make his way past Horatio. Horatio must have had a little bit of a moment as Soup and Mogo are immediately back at the fight here. We have Sam closing down within 0.3 of a second of Seb as well for that P5 spot. We got Pogo crossing past Horatio for that P3 spot, that final podium spot, with only 7 minutes remaining. That gap from Soup and Mogo to the group behind has closed down from 20 seconds down to 12 seconds with the moments that they had and the moment that Horatio also had. We've got Mogo pushing hard to catch back up to Soup here. As they continue to race hard against each other, it looks like Sam is falling back slightly from Deb, but we'll keep an eye on that gap as time goes on. Mogo's still on the attack against Soup. These guys have been racing hard all race. There's definitely some damage. Hopefully it's not too much. I believe the damage was turned down to about 30% for this race, so thankfully there's unlikely to be any suspension damage, but unfortunately there was a significant amount of contact into the corner at the end of that straight there. As Mogo is within a half a second of Soup coming down the main straight, and we will continue to watch these guys as they go through. Soup drifts a little wide into the grass, immediately back over to the left, but carried a lot of speed through this corner. He's separating from Mogo slightly. As the gaps spread out a little bit more towards the end of the race, there is 5 minutes remaining, which means that there is probably about 4 laps remaining, this lap included, depending on when these guys cross the start-finish line. But we do have Mogo closing this gap back down to 0.3, waiting for a mistake from Soup here. We have Sam in P6 pushing up on Seb in that P5 spot as well, within 3/4 of a second, but these guys are within a half a second and both hard on the throttle out of the exit here. We've got Mogo on a slightly better exit as this time dips down, as the delta decreases from Soup to Mogo going down the straight. I want to keep an eye on Sam here as well as these guys go through the corner, the hairpin into the back straight. They both drift a little wide, get a little bit of tires in the dirt. Soup gets a slightly better exit, but Mogo is within the range of the draft and appears to be just on the edge of that, maintaining that gap going through. We'll jump through and see if there's any other close battles currently going on. Looks like it's just the battle from Sam attacking Seb for that P5 position. Looks like Horatio had a moment again, unfortunately, taking it wide through the hairpin and losing the car, unfortunately. We'll jump back up to Mogo, who is within 0.2 of a second. This brings Seb up to P4 and Sam up to P5 just based on that consistency. We've got Mogo looking for the move, looking for the mistake, keeping the pressure on Soup throughout this race here. As lap traffic continues to come into play and be a factor, Horatio has fallen back to P7 with that most recent incident unfortunately. We got just under 3 minutes remaining, meaning that there is likely 2 laps remaining for the duration of this race. So it is an all or nothing time. We will see the moves from Mogo and Sam coming out this lap or the following lap. But after that, there is no more time. Losing my voice. You guys won't let me stop talking. Keep an eye out here. We got Mogo within that 6/10. Hopefully everybody has enough fuel to make it to the end. I'd hate to see a race come down this close at the end after 45 minutes only to be decided by a fuel load. If Mogo and Soup had not come together on that lap, there would be 1 additional lap of the race. So that contact may have saved anybody who potentially short fueled, as Mogo goes for a good exit and manages to close down slightly on Soup out of the corner. We'll see if he can manage to push his way up even closer throughout the remainder of this lap. It will be the final lap. It looks like he is dropping back slightly, going through into the final corners. I'm wondering if there's not enough fuel or if he just does not want to risk making a move on the final lap. We continue to push through. That gap is a half a second for both Mogo on Soup and Sam on Seb. This gap is closing down rather quickly through here as Mogo carries a little bit more momentum through these corners. Wonder if Soup thought he had a little bit more breathing room, as we see a little bit of snap oversteer coming out of the corner from Mogo, but he manages to hold it together. We'll see if he goes for a move into the final corner. It looks like he loses the rear a little bit too much, and unfortunately for Mogo, that is going to seal his fate for P2, allowing Soup to come through at the end in P1. What a wild battle between these guys. We'll sit and watch as the rest of these guys come through. We've got Pogo coming through in P3. Sam is not close enough to make that move. We've got some of the back runners, lap traffic coming through. We've got Seb coming through in P4. Sam coming through in P5. Mega Mew has sealed P12. We've got Daniel coming across the line in P6. Got Horatio drifting across the line in P7. Woohoo coming across P8. We've got Black coming across in P16. Spike coming across, it closely followed by Scrub 224. We've got Rick Nicholson coming across in P14. And Aaron K coming across to round out P10, closely followed by Potatoes for Life and Bullet to round this out in P11, P15, and then Dan Grealish to come across in P17. That was a crazy race. It was action-packed, lots of close racing. If you guys liked watching the race, If you want to participate in the race, check out the link in the description below. We've got a link to our Discord where we run races Monday through Friday, and we have expanded to an iRacing series every other Saturday as well. We will continue to offer our leagues and continue to offer more and more as time goes on. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and I will see you on Friday.